I'll call to order the May 18th, 2021 meeting of Ag and Rural Affairs. The first item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the March 16th meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. Public appearance for non-agenda items. We have no one here in the room. I'm not aware of anyone else online. All right, so we'll move on. Agenda review. Wade, any changes to the agenda? Oh, okay. Item 5A, certified survey map request CS 2385-21 by Marianne Mckenzie, agent for Beamore Farm, to divide property associated with 5735 Adams Road into 2 lots. We've got that, and we've got a companion rezone request. So we'll take those at the same time. Marianne, is Marianne on the line?
Nope, she won't be able to attend today, but she certainly said she could answer any questions after the meeting or words to that effect, so.
Okay, why don't you go ahead with the staff meeting then, Wade?
Yep, and I'm gonna share my screen. Chad, just remind me if you want me to move my viewing pane somewhere else. I'll put it down there for now. So yeah, just gonna quickly, I think, reference the map. So if the committee remembers, you guys saw this, kind of this project, well, probably a couple of years ago now, but basically Marianne Mckenzie out on South Fitchburg Road, it kind of rehabbed an old barn, fixed it up into kind of an agricultural building that hosts all sorts of things related to agriculture, classes, those sorts of things. So, and I guess another thing to point out here is, if you do remember, we recently have been discussing this idea of rural event venues. So Marianne's facility doesn't currently qualify as that, but I think if those policies get approved per our previous committee discussion, she would like her facility to become a rural event venue. So I think, again, I don't want to speak for her, but I think the intent of this rezone land division is probably to set up her property to function as a rural event venue, assuming that gets approved in the next couple of months by council. So basically, there's the larger parcel here. I believe it's 76-ish acres. The access currently comes off of Adams Road to the north. Fish Hatch runs perpendicular to the east of the property. So basically, what Marianne is doing is parceling off 3 acres, kind of in this lower right-hand corner here, to become. Actually, I'm going to switch to another map. Bear with me. Yeah, so this basically spells it all out. So this box right here essentially becomes a 3-acre ag small parcel. And then the remainder will be, again, in ag exclusive. So a fairly straightforward rezone land division process, very limited conditions. Let me just go back to those and so yeah, the conditions are on the top of the page there for both the certified survey map as well as the rezone request. No conditions out of the ordinary. And I did just want to read something that Marianne sent me today regarding this project. Let's see here. Bear with me. So she says the AS zoning change seems logical for Four Winds, her property, because it allows for community gardens, agricultural education, and roadside stands without additional conditional use restrictions. So that's a comment from Marianne. So with that, again, staff is recommending approval of both the CSM and the rezone. I can certainly take any questions or comments the committee might have.
Discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. The driveway, it goes across lot 1 to get to lot 2. Is there a dedicated easement or something along so that if you're creating 2 parcels and the driveway goes across one to get to the other, so there'll have to be a dedicated or an easement or some such thing recorded on it?
Yeah, and let me bear with me here. I thought it said, but yeah, I guess the bottom of the staff report says lot 2 will be accessed by a drive entrance on Adams Road. An access easement has been provided for the benefit of lot 2. Access on Fitchburg Road is still limited to emergency vehicles.
Good, as long as there's an easement on there, I have no issue with any of it.
Any other discussion?
I'd like, am I on? Yeah. I'd like to say that I like that she's being proactive on this. She's obviously been very interested in our project on what we're doing for venues. And here she has already set herself up to be ready to go. And I really like the idea that we have a business person in this area that is proactive on moving ahead with a great project like this. I think that's the type of thing we really like to see.
And if I could just add on to that, just the applicant has been informed too that there's no guarantee of approval of those changes. I think obviously the A committee did a good job with those changes, but certainly those are still subject to final approval, and there is no guarantee of that. But even if, assuming worst case, if those things didn't get approved, I think Marianne felt this was a good move for her property. So
Right.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I have one question on page 9 of the packet. And you can see it on the map you had there, but you have it outlined in red. I was just curious as to what that is showing us, especially up on the corner of Adams and Fish Hatchery Road there, where it shows that triangle where the pond is there. What is that?
yeah,
What
Lisa,
is,
my coworker, put this map together, but those might be just tax parcel lines,
okay,
for tax purposes. But yeah, Marianne's ownership is essentially that everything that's in red there.
yeah,
Yeah. So I think these are, it is, George, these are probably old 40s, that have their own legal description or for tax purposes or whatever it is. So, yeah.
thank you.
Randy?
The question I have is, it could be that I should know the answer, but I do not know the answer. So why is it that Lot 2 does not have access to Fish Hatchery?
Yeah, so good question. I think initially the goal was for that to have the access there. So it's a county road. So basically it's under county jurisdiction. And I think I wasn't involved in these conversations, but my understanding is the county is very stringent about lots of access on and off of their roads. So if, this was going to be a high traffic spot with a lot of in and out traffic. So I think to get a permit to allow for that amount of traffic volume off that county highway was either a no-go or very difficult. So hence, as Marianne came up with the site plan, the decision was made to access off of Adams. So really, I guess it's kind of a county highway safety issue.
Is there access though in case there's an emergency, or
Yeah.
it's limited
Yeah.
altogether?
Yeah, so in the staff report, it says, if you can see the bottom of the page here. So access on Fish Hatch is still limited to emergency vehicles. So yeah,
Okay.
ambulance needs to get in there, they can go right off of a Fish Hatch.
I can offer some input on that when Marianne came before this committee. I asked that very question as to why she made that choice. And what she said was, in order to go off of Fish Hatchery Road, she would have had to put turn lanes in on each side and long turn lanes on each side. And they did the math and looked at the cost, and then they'd have to create more parking there. So by moving the driveway up off of Adams, it solved two problems. It eliminated because it was expensive to put the turn lanes in, and then they have parking along that road. Overflow parking is on their own property on that road, and it causes less problems. But I did ask that question, Randy, when we initially looked at this when it came before us.
All right, thank you.
And that the access road to Adams is already built. That's already in use.
Yeah, I have seen that
Yep.
out there, yeah, very impressive, yeah.
Anyone else? I think we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, so that's for the CSM, Mark?
For both. You want two?
Yeah, let's take them separately.
Okay.
The CSM with the 3 conditions.
Fine.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Okay, that motion passes. The next one is for the rezone.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, great. Wade, is Marianne available for the Plan Commission meeting tonight, or do you know?
Is she available for what?
The Plan Commission meeting?
She emailed me that she was traveling. I think she was in the air. So
Okay.
I don't quite know her itinerary, but my guess would be maybe not.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Next item on the agenda, 5C, is the new city ordinance on wireless telecommunications facilities in the right-of-way. I don't think that there's any action required on this tonight. I think this is more for discussions. We'll turn this over to Wade.
Yep, and this is really just an informational item. I've not been involved in this project at all. I'm merely the messenger here today, and was made aware of this about a month ago, and thought that this committee, given your work on rural broadband and related issues, that you may be interested in just hearing about this. So pretty much what's in the packet is the extent of what I know. But the gist of it is that basically in 2018, per the FCC, there was kind of an order release that basically was to encourage, kind of wireless technology, the ease of developing those sorts of things in public rights of way. So essentially, if you could probably view it as maybe some limitations on local power as it relates to regulating those sorts of things. But again, I think it's in the general interest of encouraging, better telecommunication facilities throughout the country. So with that order being put in place, I think the city thought, obviously, we want to get out ahead of that and make sure our permitting and our regulations are in line with that order. So basically what's going to happen is the city, other planning staff, public works staff, our legal, have been putting together an ordinance to, again, regulate and just kind of apply those uniform standards for this idea of telecommunication facilities in the right of way. So with that, there's kind of two pieces to the ordinance, or to the puzzle here. There's an enabling ordinance, which is basically says we're going to do it. We're going to create an ordinance to allow for this stuff. So that's what you see in front of you. Again, this is just a draft. I don't quite know when it's going to go before council, probably sometime in the next couple months. So that's kind of the enabling ordinance, we call it. And then there'll actually be ordinance language itself that goes into chapter 64 of our ordinance, which is basically, again, regulating these facilities in the right of way. So all this stuff on page 26 and after is the actual regulating language that would go into our code. So I was told that, again, if certainly we can discuss it, I can try to answer or provide information as I know it, but certainly if folks want more information, our Public Works Director, Bill Balke, has been working on this. And then Valerie Zisman, our city attorney, is also, be a good contact point from the legal side of things. But again, just wanted to update the committee that this is coming down the pike. And again, can certainly try to answer any questions the committee might have.
Roger and Randy, I know these are things that you guys have been looking at too. Any commentary on this?
Well, not so much from this aspect. We've been focused in on broadband and from a infrastructure of some type of fiber optics from what we'll call a provider or a central office out to the customer. So it'll be interesting to see how this works its way through and if it's of some advantage going forward as far as broadband. Yeah. And Roger, any comments?
No, I think you're right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't really know whether this is going to be something that's going to impact broadband one way or the other.
Not at this point, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll be something we want to keep an eye on though a little bit. But I don't see it right now as being a part of it.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or thoughts with regard to this item? Appreciate the update on that, Wade.
Sure.
Looks like we got a short meeting this afternoon.
I've got a question on that.
You still got the broadband from,
Just, I have a question.
Oh, we do?
Ed.
yeah.
Is with the geographic location, the distance in the rural areas, I'm sure that will directly affect the cost as far as the infrastructure for fiber optics? Or is there a way that they, control that with towers?
So you're kind of leading in,
Both?
you're kind of asking questions that's leading into the next portion, or
Yeah.
you're asking about the wireless itself and,
Well, yeah, more or less the wire, because, Fitchburg has an issue with the large rural community.
right?
Is there, other communities probably have done this. How do they go about making it cost effective to get it farther out there?
Yeah, I mean, this is one issue as far as the wireless telecommunications, what we're discussing at this point, and then there's the other portion that Roger and I have been working with, and I guess that'll leads into what Roger and I have been working on. We've been working with Joyce Fry, Matt Prague, Jeremy Crosby,
Yeah.
and really just behind the scenes at this point, trying to gather information, research on a fiber solution for broadband to the rural area.
Right.
And currently, for the most part, it ends at the service urban line, and it doesn't go any further, as you folks know. But with some of the grant money that's out there, federal money, state money, we're hoping that maybe we can capture some of that and push fiber further into the rural area. And currently, Roger and I and Joyce and others, and we're engaging Wade as well. We're trying to come up with a survey. We're going to review that on Friday, and then probably next steps would be to bring it before this body, and then we have to also secure funding for that survey, and then send it out to the rural area. It's going to be very simple, very brief.
Right.
I mean, almost to the effect of, do you have broadband? If you do, what's the speed? We've discussed a number of options, but we don't want to lose folks either. They'll see a survey and
Yeah,
it won't come back.
I would think that it would probably be going along county corridors
Sure, yes.
to,
I mean, that's the thought. I mean, I've reached out to AT&T just because I have some contacts there, and we've played some phone tags. I know Matt has reached out to TDS, and I'm not sure what conversations he's had. But the big hurdle is gonna be a provider.
Okay.
And a provider meaning from a central office, Mark knows all this, from a central office where that broadband will originate and push to the customer.
So I imagine that would lead to competition in bidding, possibly?
Are you saying as far as the build itself?
As far as the provider?
Well, if they're interested,
Yeah.
yeah. But at this point, they haven't been interested because there's no broadband in rural area. But if there's money through a grant, they may very well be interested. I know I know the governor rolled it out, I think maybe last year, I'm not sure if it's been 2 years now, but there have been some successful grants in other parts of the state where they've built out broadband to more rural areas and, with different providers. I don't think AT&T's ever been in on those. And I only say AT&T because I know a good portion of the urban area of Fitchburg is covered by AT&T. You get further west, could be TDS. Now in the rural area, we've had those discussions as well. I mean, you have your cable TV and you have days gone by, Mount Vernon, and just a number of different carriers. So, but it's a matter of finding that provider that is willing to build it out if a grant is received and to be able to provide a good quality service. That's cost, that's within parameters for everybody to purchase as well. I mean, there's a lot of things.
Lot of effects there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we've got a lot of work to do. No question.
Randy, the old provider, of course, was AT&T, General Tel, which is now Frontier.
Right.
And that you had a little bit of Mount Vernon Tel in the far west side, which is TDS
Yeah.
now.
Right.
So you got TDS Frontier and AT&T, which pretty well covers the old map is what was provided as far as dial tone, and they got in a little bit of dial-up stuff. Charter came in and did a lot of through purchasing, they didn't provide any more than what was there pretty much. There was several different companies, cable television companies that came and went through the city. The original one had a provision back when you could glean off some of the money, that the city would then use that money towards providing service to the outer areas, and that didn't survive the buyouts. So we're kind of out of luck. People in the rural area are pretty well they don't have much for options. So.
No, you're right, but not that it's any consolation, but I think that holds true for most of rural Wisconsin.
True.
I think that's why the governor has played such a heavy emphasis on it. And I just handed over an email to Roger, and he's got something like $100 million to work with. That came out today. Yeah.
The interesting thing is, the last year, and a little over a year, with people working at home, kids going to school from home, and a lot of it was inadequate broadband. It really was. So
Yeah.
it created a real problem. So, which enhances where the governor was coming from, I believe,
Right.
from what I've read.
All right.
So if we can get any access to that, that would be great. I do understand we have to get someone in the central office that's going to pick that and agree to that service. As we spoke of that, my only concern is their build. If we get a grant, if the city gets a grant, I'm just leery of the telecommunications companies doing the build out, because I don't think they're very frugal, especially if they know they're using municipal money. And when we talked about this before, I don't think I was clear on what my concern was. My concern was that we're very frugal in the placement and try to cover as best we can. And municipality or utility companies historically, and Randy, you should know that, I certainly know it because I worked with them, spent their money poorly in a lot of cases. So that's my only concern with it. That we get every dollar's worth we can get,
Right.
and we have to have our finger in that pie,
Yeah.
making sure that is divided in some very small pieces and frugally.
Yeah, and I understand your concern, and I remember those days that you're referencing, and I think within the last 5 years of my career with AT&T, there were some major overhauls, because I think they recognized as well, as far as from a construction standpoint, of bidding out those projects and holding the vendor to that particular project. And I think that's something that we're going to have to keep in mind as well, just so it's,
My only concern.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good concern, but my limited experience with grants and whatnot, there are usually some pretty good spending guidelines when you get a grant. In other words, they have to meet certain things, and hopefully these grants that we would be going after would cover what you're saying to make sure that we get a full benefit from it. The name of the game with this thing, as I see it, is it's just dollars and cents. These providers are in business, and where they get their money is from the number of customers they have. That's the name of the game. And when you get into rural area, that becomes a real problem, and that's where our government has come in and said, we will subsidize the rural area because we know that that is the problem for them to get it, because they don't have enough customers in that area to get what they want. So that's the name of the game. And we've got, along with what you're saying, Mark, schools, kids that don't have this high speed, and that is definitely the way it's going. I believe we will no longer have snow days. They'll just go back to virtual those days. They got to be at home to do that. And more importantly, I've noticed the importance of us to really, continually to hopefully be a winner in this whole project is from the real estate standpoint. To sell a home in a rural area, the number one question they ask if somebody's out there, do you have high-speed internet? People are working from home. That is the number one thing. If you don't have high-speed internet in Fitchburg, the real estate value is a concern in our rural area. So we've got a lot of work to do on this. This thing is, I mean to tell you, we're just at the very, very, very beginning. The survey that we put out will be coming out down the road here, as Randy mentioned. And to give you an update, we're working to make sure that the questions in there are pointed and not hard to understand. And we're looking forward to getting a good reply on it. That then, in turn, information becomes a good part of us being able to go after the grants. In other words, we need backup for the grants when you fill out the application.
Right.
And so that's basically where we're going right now.
Yeah, with the survey itself, it needs to identify a number of issues, but it also needs to tell us where broadband exists, if it exists at all. I mean, there's been some question, is cable TV out in the rural area somewhere? If so, where does it stop? Do they provide broadband? Does some other provider? So we're really trying to provide that focus on the rural area specifically. And I mean, it could go to a point where is broadband available? And if it is, I mean, if you don't have it, is it because it's cost prohibitive? I mean, there are a number of other questions, and it could keep going and going. So we don't want to duplicate our efforts, is what I'm saying. We don't want to build another network over another network. somebody's already out there. We need to be very strategic and thoughtful about this process, so.
Roger, in the past, when I've seen government grants where the utility companies have got them, and I'll use specifically, the universities got government grants to do some work that was there, and the waste was not defined in the grant, and the waste was huge. And the loser was the end user. And I don't want that to happen here. So we cannot count on the grant to be the policeman. We have to make sure that we police that, the frugality of that, to get the best bang for our buck, because historically, it's not been there. And I saw that firsthand.
I think you've got good, that's a good point. And I think we need to take those messages to our committee.
Yep. And
we will.
Good.
And be very conscious of what you're saying.
Yep.
Because we certainly want to get our buck's worth on that. So,
You bet.
yeah, we will take that to the committee.
I wish we were at that point. I think the big issue is going to be securing those grants. Yeah.
So when is the survey going out then?
We don't have a timeline yet. We're going to review it on Friday.
Okay,
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
we've been working on it for a couple weeks now, and we're asking a number of other people to weigh in on it as well. The city staff.
Yep. And these additional grant funds, are they approved at the state level, or is this still just being proposed?
Well, my understanding they're there, but I mean, some of the conversations I've had with one of the providers, the money is there, you write the grant, but that bucket has just, additional dollars are in that bucket. So hopefully we can grab some of those dollars. So hopefully that's answering your question. The dollars are there. It's been working for a while. They've been grants have been issued. It's just the pool is much larger. So if we can write a grant and be successful at it, maybe we can build out broadband in the rural area of Fitchburg.
Great, thanks. Further discussion, thoughts on that? Okay, so that was item 5D on the agenda. Report from the department, anything, Wade?
Yeah, I just wanted to update the committee again on all those ag zoning modifications you guys spent so much time on. So we did go to Plan Commission, I guess it was April already, last month, to kind of present that as an informational item. Overall, I think the Plan Commission response was positive, a few questions, but nothing, nothing of substance. So we are currently seeking departmental comments from other relevant departments. We just got those Monday. There's a few issues we'll need to work through with some other departments. I think we'll probably work through those in the next couple of weeks. And then once we get those worked out, we will start the referral process at the council level. And then again, that basically what that means is those changes will get kicked back to Ag Committee, Plan Commission, and maybe a couple other committees for your input. And then they'll go back to council for ultimate approval. So, best case there in the next couple of months, we'll get something approved at a council level as it relates to those ag zoning changes.
So that's not likely to be ready for a June meeting for us.
No, I would think. Well, I don't want to say never, but I think more like July would probably be more realistic. So yeah.
Okay. And are you aware of any other items for the agenda for June?
No, I don't believe we have any rezone applications that I'm aware of.
Okay. So I'd assume probably that we will not have a June meeting then, and that the next meeting would be,
Yeah, the only reason we'd have a June meeting is if we, I would say we plan for a July meeting, and if things change, I'll let the committee know.
all right. So likely the third Tuesday in July then at the same time, at 4 o'clock. Okay. Any announcements? Nope, nothing further. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thanks, Wade.
Guys.